Isaiah 46, verse 10, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. First off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, RAWCHAA, QADASH, and double honors to the elders and apostles who rule well and teach well. In this video, I'm going to be going into the Edom Renaissance. All right, so the Renaissance of Edom. And the verse I read was about basically how the Lord, his counsel is basically the declaring the end from the beginning, showing what's going to happen before it happens, including the end. And we're going to go into the beast of Daniel 7, particularly the fourth beast. All right, because in Daniel, you got 4 beasts written in prophecy, and they're basically indicators of where in prophecy we are at and what measure of prophecy is fulfilled until the kingdom of heaven. So as it is written, these 4 beasts, they represent kingdoms that will rule, and then after all those thrones are cast down, then you got the kingdom of heaven, which is going to reign on earth. All right. Matter of fact, let's just get you a visual real quick. All right. So you got the Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greece Empire, and then finally you got the Rome Empire. Okay. And most scholars would interpret, if you just look it up, the 4 beasts, you'll just see most scholars will interpret it the same way. All right. All right, so Rome is supposed to be the last kingdom, right? All right, let's read Daniel 7, verse 7. It says, After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. That's the, as you see in the Amplified version, it says Roman Empire. And it says, it devoured and brake in pieces and snapped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. All right. Now the great iron teeth represents its military strength, its military might. All right. Their defense, they were very strong. They had a huge military presence. The 10 horns, right, of this government body of Rome, of the beast, are the 10 kings, the Germanic tribes that arose and took over the Roman territory. We know a kingdom divided against itself shall not stand. All right, and these 10 kings, right, which represents the Germanic tribes, it's a part of the Western Roman Empire. And you could tell because after the West fell, it fell after the invasions of these Germanic tribes, and they included the Alemanni, the Anglo-Saxons, the Burgundians, the Franks, Heruli, Lombards, Ostrogoths, Suevi, Vandals, and Visigoths. All right, matter of fact, let's just look it up real quick. Western Roman divided. All right. I'm trying to, okay. So, as you can see, these are all of the kings that ruled over Rome, right? All right, let's move on. All right, so after the Roman Empire fell, as all other kingdoms do, right? YAHAWASHI HaMashiach is supposed to reign. He's supposed to reign on earth, right? Rome would be the end, technically, according to Daniel 7. Rome will be the end in the last kingdom on earth, and then following right after following right after, the kingdom of heaven is going to reign, otherwise known as the kingdom of Israel. All right, and we know this. So now we're going to connect who's going to be ruling the Roman Empire, right? It's going to be the last empire before the beginning of YAHAWASHI's reign over the nations, the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of heaven, right? All right, so this is 2nd Ezra 6. I'm going to start at verse 7. Matter of fact, I'm going to just get straight to the point. It says, for Esau, this is verse 9, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. All right. So now we see that if Esau is the end of the world, which is an age, the world in this context represents an era or an age, and then the last kingdom is synonymous with Esau, right? And the kingdom of heaven that follows is synonymous with Jacob, which is the kingdom of heaven, okay? So that's how you tie those two in together. Let's go back to Daniel 7. Verse 21. I'm going to start at verse 21 so we can continue to tie in both of these prophecies together, because the prophets, they have sort of a synoptic prophet type of timeline, right? Each prophet got a dispensation of what they would see in the future, okay? But some had more details, some had less detail, but it all comes together. So this is Daniel 7, started at 21. It says, I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. All right. And it says, thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. There was so the Roman Empire was terrorizing. It had one of the biggest kingdoms in the world. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given unto his hand until a time and times and dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And this is the verse right here. Hold on, no. I'm going to emphasize the 26. It says, but the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and destroy it unto the end. So this is the end. This last beast. It says, and the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him. All right. And we know in Ecclesiasticus, or Sirach 10 and 8, it talks about because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches gotten by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. All right, so this is why even during Rome kingdom's rule, in which Yahawashi was resurrected with his glorified body, even the disciples, right? The disciples, they inquired about the restoration of the kingdom of Israel, synonymously known as the kingdom of heaven. All right, because that's what the prophets, they prophesied about, the restoration of Yasharallah. All right. Daniel 2:44. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to another people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. All right. So these prophecies of old are synoptic. All right. They synchronize. They're together. All right. It's just different vantage points. So they knew about this verse, right? And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Now let's go to when they inquired about this in Acts, verse 6. It says, when they therefore come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom of Israel? And he said unto them, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power. All right, so they were in Rome. They knew that was the last dominion before the kingdom of heaven was set up. All right, that was the last kingdom. All right, so through the prophets, remember the narrative of the Bible is the fight between good and evil. You got Jacob and Esau, right? The end of the world, the beginning of that follows. And between these two characters rests the fate of the world's rulership, as they were given a blessing from their father Isaac. All right. So even though Rome fell for a season and the rulers were abased for a moment, other prophecies had to be fulfilled. So Rome did not actually fall completely yet, because there was more prophecy that needed to be fulfilled. But the rulers of Rome, they were bound up by YAHAWASHI for 1,000 years, and we're going to read that in Revelation. This is Revelation 20. It says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. All right, so these are just similitudes. Matter of fact, yeah, these are similitudes. The bottomless pit represents Europe, and the chain represents the captivity and the lower estate of the Edomites, who did have rule of the Greco-Roman Empire. The Edomites were confined and or suspended for a limited time, so they were kind of like in a timeout. All right, they were in a timeout. Look, this is how you know this is YAHAWASHI that had the keys to the bottomless pit, right? This is Revelation 1 and 18. It says, I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. Amen. And have the keys of hell and death. All right. So he has the keys to these, basically it's of captivity. All right. All right, let's go back to Revelation 20 and read verse 2. It says, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Now, keep in mind, that Edom is also synonymous with hell and death, right? He's not a representation of a preservation of life. All right, and he's also synonymous with the dragon, the old serpent. All right, the dragon or the old serpent is Esau, Edom, Rome. He's also the accuser, slanderer, otherwise known as the devil. He's also the adversary to the Israelites and the preservation of life itself, aka Satan. Right, accuser. Satan means accuser. These names are all metonymies, which represent Esau, Edom. All right, verse 3, it says, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. All right, so I hope you're following. I hope this is edifying. Okay, so that little season he must be, and after that, he must be loosed a little season. All right, so the fall of Rome generally refers to the decline and collapse of the Western Roman Empire, which is typically marked by the year 476 Common Era, when the Germanic general Odoacer deposed the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus. While the Western Empire fell, the Eastern Roman Empire which is the Byzantine Empire, continued to exist for another 1,000 years. All right, so that 1,000 years is when the Eastern, so after they fell for 1,000 years, but the Eastern Empire, which has nothing to do with the fourth beast, is ruling for 1,000 years, which links up to this precept. All right, so we know in secular history there's an instance where this entity or nation of people did a lot of iconoclasm, whitewashing, and this is where the Renaissance is. This is where I'm getting to the Edomite Renaissance. Scientific racism, humanism, changing the names and identity of people. During that 1,000-year period, there were no more pushing the Roman culture influences, which was spearheaded by the Idumeans. But after he was loosed, he was able to go on and deceive the nations. And we are actually in that little season. All right, so after the fall of Rome, the Idumeans actually came back from a lower state to bring back that classical energy of Greco-Roman cultivation, back in style, back to the fashion of the world. Back to fashion the world, actually. So let's move on. And this verse proves it too. In Malachi 1:4, this is prophecy. It says, whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. YAHAWAH have indignation forever. All right, so they said they were desolate, they were impoverished, right? But they came coming back to rebuild. This is Revelation 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. I'm gonna go down to verse 3, and it says, matter of fact, let me read in the NLT so it can hit harder. Revelation 13:3 NLT. It says, I saw that one of the heads of the beast seemed wounded beyond recovery, but the fatal wound was healed. The whole world marveled at this miracle and gave allegiance to the beast. All right, so the beast represents Esau, Edom's rulership, right? And that fatal wound being healed is the rebirth of Rome after the 1,000-year period. So I hope you're following, right? So the Empire of Rome is personified as the head of the beast. The wounds, they represent decay, economic turmoil, desolation, dilapidation, overthrowing, visible damage from judgment, such as war, like I said, economic collapse, social unrest. This figurative language is in other scriptures describing a hurt government body. Okay, so the Western Roman Empire, it was wounded. All right, it got split into 10, and eventually it fell, and it was wounded. It seemed like it was beyond repair, right? The world, they wandered after the beast eventually because the deadly wound was healed. So we're going to go to the deadly wound was being healed. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you other sources, other precepts about how the deadly wound, is wounds, period, are synonymous with basically corruption, just collapse. So this is Jeremiah 30 in verse 12. It says, "For thus saith Yahawah, your bruise is incurable and your wound is grievous. There is none to plead your cause, that thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicines." All right, so the bruises, they represent spiritual and moral decay, hiding under political or economic systems. All right. And we'll go to another precept. So it's starting to, hopefully it's starting to make sense. That daily wound being healed. This is Isaiah 1 and 6. It says, "From the sole of the foot and even unto the head." Now this is talking about like a government body, a body, right? But it's a personification. It says, "From the sole of the foot even unto the head, there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores, they have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment." All right, now those, all of those medicines are for like reparations, repair. All right, putrefying sores. The putrefying sores means, in this context, unrepented sins festering over time. So it's like iniquity. All right, corruption in leadership and systems, injustice left untreated, like greed, exploitation. This is a sign of spiritual rot, showing that the disease has set in deep. Neglect of healing means no truth, no repentance, no return to God. All right, and this was talking about the Israelites in this context. Verse 7, it says, now this is we should emphasize this. It says, "Your country is desolate," right? Remember, Edom said, we're going to build the desolate places. "Your cities are burned with fire. Your land, strangers devour it in your presence." So it's talking about a land. It's talking about a whole a country. "Your land is strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate as overthrown by strangers." So it's all about being overthrown. It's about leadership being overthrown. That's what it means when the place is wounded. All right, the country is the one it's being personified as a body, the government, right? So that daily wound being healed is synonymous with Malachi 1 and 4, where the Edomites express rebuilding the desolate places. And in history, this prophecy speaks to the rebirth or the Renaissance, all right, which is the return of Rome and the healing of the head of Esau's government, his government head. All right, now where did the Renaissance begin? The Renaissance, it began in the heart of Italy, which is Florence, because Italy had been the center of the Roman Empire, right? So it started from the center of the Roman Empire. That's where the Renaissance started, which is on brand, all right? All right, so eventually, after the Renaissance, the Edomites, which are the serpent, as a full conglomerate of entity, was able to spew their poison worldwide. All right. So we're going to go back to Revelation 20. They was able to spew their poison worldwide, which is deceive the nations. All right. So let's go continue. In verse 7, it says, "And when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison." All right. So he's going to be loosed out of he's not going to be bound up. Now he's going to be able to go and go out into the world. All right, he's rebuilt his places, his desolate places, which was the Renaissance, Rome. All right, so it says, "And shall go out to deceive the nations, which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. All right, so he's the key thing is, let's read it in the Amplified version. It says, and when the 1,000 years are completed, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive and mislead the nations which are in the four corners of the earth. All right, so when you think about the four corners of the earth, that's the whole earth. And you can tell that the vibration of the earth is under the energy of ancient Rome, based on the worldwide organizations forwarded by the rulers, the ones that's in power. All right, so I'm about to show you some pictures to prove what I'm saying, that cover the whole earth. You know, you have, you know, the UN. This right here, you know, I'm about to show you these pictures. They contain the laurel wreath, right, which is a Roman. It's a Roman. It was used in Rome. All right. All right, and here you have, though. Remember the serpent, that old serpent, the dragon. So here you have on this picture, who? The World Organization. It's a world organization dealing with, you see it, healing. And as you can see around the whole earth, it's a symbol. As you can see around the whole earth, it's a laurel wreath. All right. And this laurel wreath comes from Rome. All right. It comes from Rome. As you can see, look at the coins of Rome. It's a laurel wreath. All right. Now, this laurel wreath is spoken about even in scripture. All right. And I'm about to show you. All right. So, but basically in these pictures, you see the laurel wreath, right? In ancient Rome, let me tell you what this wreath means. It symbolizes victory and honor, particularly military victory. It was worn by victorious generals during the triumphs and by Roman emperors as a symbol of their power and connection to the gods. All right, not only do you see Roman influence, but also the vibration of Greeks, which were Idumeans as well, or Edomites, as well, with the rod of Asclepius, that old serpent. All right, so this is the rod of Asclepius too, right here, which is one of their gods in Greek. It's a Greek god dealing with the Greeks. Asclepius is their Greek god. All right, but you also have the Roman influences with the laurel wreath surrounding the whole earth in this symbol. All right, their influence spread out like a green bay tree to the four corners of the earth. And this is what I was talking about when it says in Revelation 20 verse 8, and he shall go out to see the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. All right. So this laurel wreath, it comes from a green bay tree. All right. And this is how you can tell that the wicked are ruling the world, because many organizations, they have this laurel wreath in the emblem. All right. You can search it up. The bay laurel, which is, a bay tree, comes from a bay tree, right? It's a native evergreen tree in the ancient world. It symbolizes strength, prosperity, and endurance. This is where laurel wreaths derive from, a bay tree. All right, so let's go into Psalm 37. So you can see that the scriptures are jumping off the page, prophecy. This is Psalms 37, verse 35. It says, I have seen the wicked in great power and spreading himself like a green bay tree. All right. I have seen the wicked in great power and spreading himself like a green bay tree. All right, so even in their emblems, you can see their symbols, their organizations. You can see the vibration of the wicked being reflected of spreading himself like a green bay tree with this laurel wreath around the whole world. A green bay tree is wide spreading, is flourishing, and dominates the landscape, visibly strong and influential. And this aligns perfectly with the current global power structure rooted in Roman Edomite dominion. All right? Their reach stretches into every continent through military bases, banks, religion, media, and policy. And the United Nations is the most powerful organization in the world with a laurel wreath within it. All right? And don't forget this is a classic symbol of victory and honor, often associated with ancient Roman rulers and military commanders. It was also a symbol of the gods, particularly Apollo. All right, so by the end of the day, they're going to be thrown down like the Lord speaks in Malachi 1 and 4. And matter of fact, let's go back to Psalm 37. I'm going to start at 35 again. It says, I have seen the wicked in great power and spreading himself like a green bay tree. Yet he passed away, and lo, he was not. Yeah, I sought him, and he could not be found. All right, so remember, the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment. That's Job 20 and 5. And remember, the laurel wreath, which is the green bay, come from the green bay tree, it represents triumphant victory. But in Job 20, let's go to it. Job 20 and 5, it says that knowest, starting at 4, knowest not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. So Edom's rulership is temporary, just for a little season. It's cut short, but for a moment. While the kingdom of Israel is going to last forever, and it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever as it is written. All right? It's going to stand forever. Psalm 137, verse 7. Remember, O YAHAWAH, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, race it, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. All right, as we can see, the children of Edom are associated with the daughter of Babylon, which the daughter of Babylon grew into Babylon the Great, following the Edomite Renaissance that started from Europe and spreading over to the West. Edom's end is destruction, wasted away is he. No matter what he rules, is going to come to an end. All right, it's going to be thrown down. And you could tell that this is talking about Esau, Edom, and his rulership, because it's going to be thrown down. It's going to be it's prophesied to be destroyed. All right. Yeah. Revelation 18 and 21. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. So this thrown down, you keep talking about this city Babylon being thrown down. The daughter of Babylon is associated with the children of Edom. All right. And being thrown down, that if you remember back in Malachi, let's go back to Malachi 1. If you remember back in Malachi 1, and starting at verse 3, And I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places, which they did, right? With the Renaissance, they, their daily wound was healed. They was able to be loosed a little season, all right? But thus saith the Lord of hosts, Yahweh of armies, they shall build, but I will throw down, right, like a great millstone, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. That it was a stone that hit that statue in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, right? That stone, hit the toes. That's the last ruling empire. All right. So as we can see, Edom is associated with the great city Babylon, which is prophesied to be thrown down. All right, we know that Edom is also associated with the Roman Empire, and then the return of the Greco-Roman vibration through the Renaissance. And just to prove, who ruled, it was the Edomites that ruled Rome. This their Renaissance. Let's see. You just look at the history and recorded history. Different busts, they call them busts, which was like statues. All right, so this guy is Augustus of Prima Porta, and these people are who were the rulers of Rome. All right, you can even see it on these coins. All right, so these people, these are the Edomites. All right, you can even look up. There's a book that Esau, Edom is Rome. All right, the man of sin. All right, and they also are the ones who pushed the Renaissance, which, they had whitewashing, iconoclasm, all those things. But now they're spread across the whole world, as you can see. And eventually they're going to be thrown down. So, Lord willing, this was edifying. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH. Forgive me the spirit to make this video. And Lord willing, I'll be able to make another video soon. All praises to Yahweh, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI. Shalom.